This large granite monument honors the life of Thomas A. Fitzpatrick. Until his tragic death in 1899, Fitzpatrick served as superintendent of the Mound City National Cemetery, which also happens to be his final resting place. According to newspaper accounts, Fitzpatrick attended the United States Military Academy at West Point, but dropped out and headed west, where he took part in the 1849 Gold Rush. In 1862, he joined the 18th Pennsylvania Volunteer Cavalry. Fitzpatrick fought in 28 engagements, each carved into his monument, including the battles of Gettysburg and Spotsylvania Courthouse. The last was White Oak Swamp, also known as St. Mary's Church, where he was seriously wounded. A 1909 history of Fitzpatrick's unit describes the unusual nature of how he was wounded.
Sergeant Thomas Fitzpatrick's wound was a peculiar one. He was in the act of firing with his carbine when a bullet struck the barrel of his carbine in such a way as to splinter the small wood stock, and then struck his right hand at the trigger guard, splitting his right hand and then following the bone and muscles of the arm and coming out the shoulder.
In the surgeon's tent, they determined Fitzpatrick's survival depended on the amputation of his right arm. But Fitzpatrick refused.
The sergeant, with his left hand, drew his revolver and laid it by his side and said, "I will shoot the first man that undertakes to amputate my right arm." The surgeons went away, and after having attended to the other wounded, came back to the sergeant and asked if he was now ready to have his arm amputated. He replied, "No, I want it understood that this is my right arm, and I want you doctors to fix it up the best you can. I will take my chances. It will be time to amputate it when it can't be saved."
Fitzpatrick won the day. Doctors dressed the wound, and it did well. So well, he returned to the company minus 2 middle fingers on his right hand and a badly crippled and permanently disabled right arm. As a disabled veteran, Fitzpatrick could serve as a national cemetery superintendent. Disability was one of the requirements according to general orders published at the time. In 1882, a cemetery inspector gave Fitzpatrick an excellent report. The report noted his disability and explained how a Confederate bullet shattered his right arm and hand. Regardless, the inspector wrote, Fitzpatrick was energetic, industrious, and takes much pride in having his buildings and grounds in good condition. Fitzpatrick undoubtedly enjoyed the prestige of serving as the National Cemetery Superintendent. It was an important position. A newspaper report said he was well regarded, calling him a jovial, witty Irishman. But his service would end in tragedy. On June 21, 1899, a cemetery worker shot and killed Fitzpatrick. He was behind the caretaker's lodge talking to another employee when the killer approached. The shotgun blast tore into his left chest, setting his shirt on fire. Witnesses say Fitzpatrick turned, walked a step or two, then fell. The accused killer was Michael Tobin, a former cemetery worker upset with Fitzpatrick after losing his job due to reduced funding. The murder of the National Cemetery Superintendent made headlines throughout the country. The killer escaped. Bloodhounds failed to pick up the scent. It appeared the angry cemetery worker got away with murder. But months after the shooting, Tobin's skeletal remains were found deep in the woods about 2 miles northeast of Mound City. He had shot himself with the same shotgun he used to kill Fitzpatrick. A coroner's jury interviewed witnesses who confirmed the clothing, shoes, and shotgun found with the remains belonged to Tobin. The jury ruled his death a suicide, committed 5 months earlier on the same day as Fitzpatrick's murder. In life, Thomas Fitzpatrick served the war dead, honoring their memory by caring for their final resting place. In death, he joins them, becoming part of the story we must never forget.